Star Wars Lego birthday.
Nice.
Edition.
That's cool. Well,
So,
Did it ha-
I like to go live in the middle of things, so we've been live here for a few seconds. But
You did it again!
so welcome to episode 11 of the Critic, the Geek, and the Girl. You may have already noticed the Geek is filled in by Josh Childs this week. Josh, thank you for being here.
thank you for having me.
Yeah, I was going to say, Josh, you don't have to. I was going to say you can find Josh on YouTube at the Nether region. They do comedy sketches based in the world of science fiction. So
He's amazing.
yeah,
Oh, what are you drinking out of?
My TARDIS coffee mug.
I'm drinking out of my blood water
Ooh,
coffee mug.
I'm drinking out of my thumb. That's all I got.
Also,
I got.
impressive.
Thank you. Deneé Hughes, as always, is the girl. You can check her out at Deneé Says on Twitter, and of course, DeneéHughes.com, right? On the
That's
web?
true. Yeah, I built a website one time.
And we cannot get started until the theme song has been sung. Deneé, please sing the theme song.
Okay, I haven't come up with a new one, so it's just gonna be the
No,
same
no,
one.
the old one's
Okay.
great.
The critic, he's legit the geek. His brain won't quit the girl. She's a perfect fit. It's the critic, the geek, and the girl.
Very nicely done. Very
Oh, thank
nicely
you.
done. Josh, applause, golf applause, Elise.
Yes.
Good. All right, so today we've got CHAPPiE we're going to review, and then we're going to talk about artificial intelligence movies, kind of go over our favorites, and then maybe even talk a little bit about superhero movies and if they're starting to get a bad reputation, kind of as lower-class cinema. So,
And maybe we can cross over when we start talking about, our villain in the next Avengers movie.
right? There you go. There you go. So, all right, here's what I want to do to start off with. I want to say, if you are watching live, first of all, thank you for joining us. We have the Q&A app installed, so if you watch at the event page, you can ask us questions. Somebody's already popped in a question already that's in there. We will take a look at those. We'll pop those into the show when we feel like they're appropriate. So thank you for that. If you aren't watching live, if you're watching on YouTube after the fact, that's fine. You can still watch on the event page and kind of see those questions as they pop in. Also, just so you know, we do this every other week at about 3 p.m. Central, so you can join us every other Saturday for that. And if you happen to show up at 3 on a Saturday and we're not doing it, well, I'm sorry. Just come back next week and we'll be there. That's how it works. Let's get right into CHAPPiE. This is an artificial intelligence movie like none I've ever seen. It's from the guys who brought us District 9. And kind of has their visual aesthetic to it and kind of their sense of humor, different things, their sense of location, all that kind of stuff. But it follows a robot company who makes police robots, and then somebody in the company wants to make a sentient robot, and what happens when he attempts to do that. And Josh, since you're new, you get to start us off. What did you think about CHAPPiE, just in general, overall, and then we'll get to the specifics here in a little bit.
Overall, I thought it was a really graphic children's movie. I can keep going. Do you guys want to chime in, or let me just keep.
No, that's good. That does describe it effectively. It was very graphic.
I'll say this. I love District 9. Like, that was one of my soul fixers whenever I was done spending money at the theaters. Like, it was a great movie, and Elysium was fine. And this one was over. I mean, generally, it was just very distracting. I don't know to what degree we can talk about spoilers as we have conversations, but
yeah, we'll get. I'm sure we'll get spoilers. Generally, we don't fear spoilers on this. We'll get into them a little bit later, just so somebody who maybe doesn't want them can, kind of shut their eyes for a little bit. Deneé, what did you think overall?
I blame you for this. I blame you entirely. I actually was a little bit concerned that I was going to be tried to have some sort of emotion towards a robot, and then they were going to try to make me cry because CHAPPiE was going to go through this horrible life adventure with humans, and I was going to love CHAPPiE, but this was such a terrible movie that I had no emotional connection to anybody, not even the humans. So that might be the only thing I liked about the movie, is that I didn't get emotional because there was nothing to get emotional about.
So you found yourself in a place where you weren't connecting to anything that was going on.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. Okay. I had a little bit different experience. I did connect at points during the movie. Overall, I felt like it was kind of a letdown from District 9, from kind of the way they were able to play with bigger themes in a kind of a genre movie. I think they tried to do that here, but overall for me, I didn't feel it worked on the same level as their other movies, although I did find a few things here and there to like.
Did you find yourself thinking, like, are they just doing these things, like, I don't know, let's start with the music, you know, like this really deep music would set in, and you're like, I'm supposed to, this is like cheer for the hero, things are about to get intense music. And it just always missed the mark for me. Or they'd have a moment when, like, a human would lean in and, like, get really emotional with a robot, and I'm like, did I miss something? We shouldn't be jumping to this. There was no build-in to this character.
I had a similar response. I mean, but it was to the point for me, like, it was comical. The scene where Chappie's actually in the bed, all cozied up, and laughing out loud. And I don't know if I was laughing. I mean, I know why I was laughing, but I don't know if it was the same reason. Like, they put it in there to be funny. Like, I think they were trying to be sweet and have a tender thing, and it was silly and distracting.
Yeah.
Robot all cozy up in a blanket.
Did you also feel like it suffered from, like, too many lead characters?
Well, again, but the same thing. Like, if they would have picked one to feel more for, maybe it would be different. I mean, I guess Chappie was our main character and the best actor. I mean, even great actors that we know and love were kind of underused. I felt. But yeah, there was a lot of people, but I think it would have been more effective if they had been doing something more.
Do you think a lot of it comes down to the fact that Chappie himself is just a swing and a miss? Like, that what they were trying to do with him was to make him an infant, then a child, then a teenager, right? We're supposed to go through all this with him, but because everything about him is so cut and paste and copy from the people around him, that he didn't have his kind of own personality or own character that was anything more than just kind of a Xerox of what's happening around him?
You know, that's a really good point, too. That's not something I expected kind of going into this, is that, so essentially Chappie is, you know, brought to life and then forced to grow up with thugs. 3 people who are in a situation where they have to come up with a lot of money to pay off a big guy. And so their plan is to turn Chappie into this, like, crazy machine to accomplish their goals. And so he begins to take on all these different traits. I don't know that I expected that, which, you know, maybe it could have been all right, but then you have his maker, the person who created the AI intelligence, the person who put that into him and kind of brought him to life, who very suddenly is just not in the picture at all. And the only kind of input he has in Chappie's life is a promise that he makes this robot make to not do a heist. So to me, there was just, the story could have worked, but it just seemed like it was just pushing through these quick plots to get to these big scenes where things are going to be exploding, and it missed a lot.
Even the Chappie kind of mimicking the other people's actions and stuff to grow up, I felt like that was kind of what the movie was too. Like, he borrowed a lot of, like, general archetypal elements from specific movie. I mean, a lot of people, I've heard some people, you know, compare it to RoboCop, obviously, but more specifically, I would compare it to RoboCop 3. Its story, but then, you know, like, the character archetypes, it was a really soft hand, and he like, made us take a lot for granted with the characters. But, you know, like the ninja character, who is just so terrible the whole time, and at the end, like, he transforms and he's got heart, but they never fed that. It's just like, one scene he was a bad guy, the next scene he was a good guy.
And that's kind of how all of the people were to me. There was never a character throughout the entire film that fully stayed inside of their role, which can work sometimes, and it seems like that's sort of like real life in a way. Sometimes, you know, we think we got it right, and then sometimes, like, oh, maybe we're not doing the right thing, and that happens in movies. But when every single character is doing that, and every single one is someone that you kind of feel like you want to root for, oh, no, we just changed your mind, and they're all flipping and flopping through the whole film, and even Chappie himself, is trying to figure out who he is. It's like, okay, who am I bonding with here? Which is another reason why I don't think I had any emotional connection to anybody.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's hard to bond. It's almost as like CHAPPIE's not the only artificial intelligence. There's no real intelligence in the entire movie. It's all artificial intelligence. It's like everybody is a conglomerate of, a program that's been put on them. And maybe there was a point there. Maybe that's what they were trying to do, is show that, humans are artificial intelligence in their own way. That's probably giving the movie too much credit. But it was one of those things where you could not identify in a way with anybody. And let's talk about Hugh Jackman for a second, since we're talking about these different characters. Was that an awful performance, or am I wrong? I thought that was an awful performance.
I think it's across the board. The characters were structured like B-movie characters, and I don't know what else he could have done with that part. I don't think he did great, but I don't know who could have. Honestly.
Yeah.
That's a valid point. Yeah, that's a good point. It's almost put on him. It's structured on him in a way that there's not really much he can do. But man, he's chewing scenery towards the end for sure.
This is what I said about it's like a children's movie that's super, super, super graphic, because all these character archetypes are like, and they're like, he is so over the top, like, I'm a bad person and I'm gonna do this, and it was like a Disney villain.
I'm glad you brought up that perspective of kids thing, because at one point I was like, who is this movie for? Like, so this is not entertaining me. It's not engaging me. And so I began to think, okay, who is this movie for? It's sort of like giving you the plot. It's handing the plot to you. It's handing all this stuff to you, the importance of particular types of electronic devices and how they make a robot work. It's all very just like, oh, yes, I don't have to think through this movie at all. And then I was like, well, maybe it's for, younger kids. And then quickly, oh, no. No. It is not for younger kids. And let that be known. If you've got, don't take them. Don't take them to this movie. There are interesting tattoos on people.
I mean, there's gratuitous, like, nudity for no purpose. It's just like, oh, we need to throw some nudity up on the TV.
Yeah, right? And
there's actual human and robot dismemberment.
Yes, human and robot dismemberment. And then like it's this strange juxtaposition of like you've got this sort of horrible gang world where you've got these guns and this sort of like when at one point in the movie these hero robots, these hero police robots aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, and so people are rioting in the streets. It's instant. It's like 3 minutes have passed, and the entire Johannesburg is out in the streets. I'm like, this is a terrible city. This is a terrible place. So you've got this like really horrible, and then everything's painted like pastel colors. It's like Easter. It's like Easter meets gangster. It is so strange. Anyway.
That would be Inkster.
Inkster.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a strange movie.
I keep jumping in. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just going to ask, is there anything new here? This is one of my problems with this movie. I don't even think philosophically it goes any place that other artificial intelligence movies haven't gone. Now, maybe that's a big task because there's been so many of them, but I don't sense anything new about the learning of the robot or the way he... I mean, it felt very much like Short Circuit, in a lot of ways. And I know people are going to make that comparison, but, or WALL-E or any of these movies where, robots are learning. Go ahead, what'd you say?
That William Parcell already did make the comparison to Short Circuit with guns.
Yes.
Yeah.
William Parcell, thank you for watching. He's got some good comments in there.
Yeah, I don't think there was nothing new or interesting. I mean, other than the actual like CHAPPiE performance, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, the effects looked amazing, but it wasn't anything. But even the bad guy robot, I don't know if that's a spoiler, and I don't remember what the technical name for it is, but it literally looked like the bad guy robot from RoboCop. It was a homage, if not a ripoff.
Yeah.
It was completely ineffectual. It was the worst villain robot I've ever seen.
Yeah.
CHAPPIE did more damage than he did. I don't know what everybody's afraid of with that thing. But that's not what you're asking. You were asking themes and stuff. No, nothing. I don't. I mean, I didn't see anything new.
Well, answer me this: what was the movie about? If you had to center it down, boil it down to a theme, what is it trying to say? Because these guys have made a career on trying to say something. So,
Yeah.
what do you think they're trying to say in this movie?
Well, I would say it felt pretty heavy-handed in towards the end when CHAPPiE is beating up Hugh Jackman's character. Sorry.
That's a whole different movie. That's a whole different movie.
I like this one too. But when he's beating it up and he's just going way over the top, talking about how violence is bad and humans are too violent and they need to stop being so violent. And as he's beating the crap out of him,
Yeah.
I didn't feel like that was the overall theme of the movie until he was banging us over the head with it at the end. I'm like, well, maybe that's the point, or maybe he had too many little points. And
is he trying to make points about religion? Is he making points about the maker and creation? I mean, because just that he's called the maker and all that kind of stuff. But if he
really had issues with him, like why would he make him in a body to die? So there's like the question of mortality. Like, I
think it's a story of consciousness. I think it's a story of persisting beyond death. But they packaged it so strangely because you're distracted by, you're talking earlier about is there anything unique in this, and I think I agree with you, Josh. Like the performance of CHAPPiE was unexpected. I feel I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. He's sort of a gangster robot. He's got this interesting gait. He keeps doing his little nose. He's doing all these little things, and I was like, oh, that's unique. It's also really interesting how they are using their dialect throughout the film. You've got an Australian, you've obviously got the Johannesburg accent real thick in there, so thick that we need subtitles at times. So that stuff is unique. But I feel like towards the end it's really pushing persistence beyond death, and that is a possibility for anything that is living. And I definitely don't think I want to give anything away at the end, just in case you want to go enjoy this movie. But I think that's what it's about. Consciousness.
I think that's right. I think that's fair.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So what did we like? Let's go around the horn. Let's find one thing we liked. And I know this may be a little difficult, so I'll give you a couple seconds to think about it when I say mine. I really enjoyed the music. I know you talked about it, Deneé. I actually thought, maybe not the way it worked like you were talking about, but I enjoyed the style of music they used in this, and I enjoyed the music cues in this as well. I like the way they use music. So that was one thing that I enjoyed about it. What about you guys?
I thought technically it was solid. It looked great. I mean, his other movies looked great too. So I came in expecting that. But even I did buy, and I like the snapshots of the city, which we saw a little more than we did in his first one. Like we get to see more of that specific world, Johannesburg. So I thought I liked the look of it, and I liked even like in the gangster's lair that there was like weird children's graffiti, like stuff like that. I did like. So I would say visually, I thought it was stunning.
Would you say you felt it was like a fully realized universe?
I would say that I thought it was a fully realized universe. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some things I didn't like about the fully realized universe because, for example, the guy that's created this AI intelligence and stuff, the maker or whatever, when he goes home and he's working on this program to like create this robot or whatever, I'm like, can't you just make these robots easier to understand? Like that really bothered me. Like we're so far in the future, we can't have a robot have a better voice than just, I don't know. That really frustrated me. I don't know why.
That's a great point.
It just seemed like it was like this mixture. It was too on the nose. It's like, this is a robot voice, therefore this is a robot. And this is a robot smile, therefore that's a robot. So I'm trying to think of what I liked about this movie. I'm really trying hard. Yeah. Ooh. I'll go with music too.
Nice.
There you go.
Speaking of which, Dev Patel, who's the guy in this, is also in the other movie out this week, the second best Marigold Hotel. So it's like Patel week.
Yeah,
Somebody got an echo going on?
Warble too.
Oh, it's gone now. No, it's not.
I think it's on your end, Josh. You got headphones you can throw in?
Give me a second.
Run, Josh! Run!
Hey, why was Sigourney Weaver in that movie?
Right? Because they needed to have a strong female lead. Because the other female lead was like a child. A strange, dangerous, gun-wielding girly girl.
They looked like Thunderdome characters.
Yeah, a little bit.
How does that? Is that better, guys?
Way better.
Yeah, in fact, your mic got better too. You must be using the mic on those headphones too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The silky tones of Josh Childs. I'll be with you all night.
Bravo.
Yeah, it did feel, in fact, that's what I've told. I think I used that line in my review that it's Mad Max meets Short Circuit. That's basically kind of what's happening here, and I think there is a lot of that in kind of the aesthetic to it.
Oh, but they missed the mark on. I mean, there is nothing like Johnny Five. This has got nothing on that movie. Like, there's this.
See, and I would say it's got nothing on Mad Max.
That's true. It definitely borrows from a lot of different things. Like, okay, we're gonna have these futuristic, crazy people, and we're gonna have weird, strange haircut, mullets, mashups, and pastel colors, and we're gonna have a robot, and we're gonna teach it to be a gangster. It's like these sort of thrown in ideas, and I think, it just doesn't. Oh, let's be really offensive. Let's make it R somehow. How can we do that?
Hard
oh,
R.
I know.
Yeah, out of place R, like all the wrapping paper on it was R. They were trying to wrap a rated G PG movie up in a rated R wrapping paper.
Yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't.
When I was watching it, I thought, there's nothing to compare this to, but maybe like Christian porn. Right? Like it's not possible. It's not possible to make that. And if you do, like, who are you making it for?
Right. Who is this movie for?
No audience. There's no audience for that. You are alienating both.
And just like that, Josh Childs launched an entire industry. It was amazing.
Don't put that on me. Don't put that on me. No.
All right. Well, I think it's fair to say none of us really liked this movie. I think I maybe liked it better than you two. I gave it, I think, a C+, so even just a little bit above average. And mostly that was for me for kind of the texture of the movie I thought was well done. Like you said, the visual flair was well done. And some of those emotional moments did work for me, some of the philosophical stuff. It just didn't congeal. Like, it just didn't hold together in the end. So I liked it a little bit more than you guys, I think. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah.
If you gave it a C, yeah.
Yeah.
But mostly just because I think that's sort of inexcusable. Like, how did this movie happen? And I agree, some of the visual stuff is great. CHAPPiE's fun to look at. He's got these little antenna ear things that sort of emote like a dog. There's a lot of things that's like, oh, this could help me to have some sort of a relationship with this character. But then all the flippy flopness, that was the whole thing just seemed to have just cop out after cop out.
Yeah, for sure. Where would you put it, Josh?
I would put it a high D. I mean, I think it's got too much actual filmmaking that went into it to give it anything lower. But I felt like I was just thinking about it. It feels like what happens when studios try to mess with somebody. I keep trying to find ways to defend Neil after his first movie that was such a game changer, I thought. So maybe that's it. Like, maybe he did, like, he was doing something on purpose. Maybe he was trying for something. Or maybe he had a vision that didn't get, realized because studios like, he needs more heart. And he's like, well, I want a hard R. And he's like, nah, maybe, but...
What if it's the opposite? What if he has been given more freedom? And when he was given more freedom, he came up with something like... I mean, I think that's what we saw with
Tim Burton syndrome.
What's that?
The Tim Burton syndrome.
Tim Burton, I mentioned M. Night Shyamalan, I think suffered from that a lot too, got too much freedom. So, I'm wondering if maybe there's a little bit of that in there too.
Maybe.
If this movie, if they had taken out the incessant cussing and some of the gross dismemberment and phallic symbols and inappropriate nakedness for no reason. This could have really appealed to some young kids. Maybe even tone down some of the violence and really play up some of the heart. And because underneath it all, you've got these pretty tried and true messages. You feel like a black sheep. You have choices to make. You make wrong decisions and you want to make right decisions. You have the good and the bad. Like, there's some good stuff in there. If he would have toned it back,
Yeah.
maybe this could have just been a really great, PG-13 film. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe he went too.
Right. It has to coalesce that theme in a way that you understand. Oh, this is about obedience even when you don't understand it. Or something like that. Where you really just get it, and it really powers that home. And I mean, that could be like the thematic movie lover in me coming out. Like, I love a movie with a great theme, and it really. But yeah, it was just too all over the place in so many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's talk about artificial intelligence movies that we really do enjoy. If we can kind of name like our favorite or a couple of our favorites, movies that have robots that end up thinking on their own. Where we start? Deneé, you want to start? Okay, we pick you. Deneé, we pick you.
I'm going WALL-E. That one blew my mind. So
what was it about it? What did you like about WALL-E?
I did not expect to actually have emotion in that movie. If you know anything about me, I don't like to get emotional, and so this one totally surprised me. It was an amazing film from the beginning to the end. I loved it. There wasn't a lot of dialogue. It didn't need dialogue. It showed emotion through just simple motions. And the part where I cried was when he was like trying to hold her little hand. I was just like, it's just like me. I'm so in my own shell, and then every once in a while I reach out and hold someone's hand, and it was so good. I really thought they did a great job with sounds, making sounds that kind of were communicating, and so WALL-E's language. So for sure, mine's WALL-E for sure.
Cool. Josh, what do you think?
Well, I don't know if it's about a story of a robot becoming sentient so much, but and I feel like this has a really nice segue as we were talking about Sigourney Weaver being in this movie. But I love the all the robot characters in the Alien franchise. It's not about them, but they with that first movie they made it such a surprise. So you felt like he was human. Right, and then it's a big reveal when you find out that this is a spoiler for anybody in the world that hasn't seen Alien.
I haven't, but
oh, sorry.
That's cool.
But then there's this anyway. So when you realize that he's not human, it's a really really powerful moment in that movie, and so much so the rest of the franchise always tried to focus on that. Arguably not so much with Alien 3. It was more of a cameo, but with the rest of them, like it's such huge parts, and even the robots in those movies like if Ripley was going through like some journey with each movie was like a different phase of her character, so she wasn't playing the same person. She was the lone survivalist, then she was the brains of an operation, or the correspond. What's the word? What the one we're looking for? Anyway, she grew with each movie by the end. She's actually, an alien herself, kind of. The robots had the same sort of transition. So with the first one was the bad guy. The second movie, like, do we trust this guy? And he turns out he's a solid guy. And then the third one, he's back to do some mentoring. And then the fourth, we've actually got, Winona Ryder dealing with more of like what was in this movie, the alien that wants so desperately to be human but never can, like ashamed of her robotedness. And anyway,
that's an interesting to open up kind of the category of robot sidekicks, artificial intelligence sidekick.
Yeah.
Because then you start thinking of like C-3PO.
I'm on Data. Why was Data? Data. Yeah. Oh my goodness, I loved watching him. I changed my mind. I'm changing mine to Data.
And he's got the same. Well, yeah, and he's got the same thing, right? His journey was to be more and more like to understand humanity, become more human. It's And
he was so creepy when he got that chip that kind of went crazy, and he just couldn't stop smiling. And I'm like, it's great. Yeah. He was a great character.
Recent example would be the robots in Interstellar, which I thought were interesting.
Yes,
Those,
yeah.
like, cube robots that like had like cube legs and stuff, and I was like, it seemed like the world's most inefficient design, yet somehow they were really fast and really agile, and I
You're
I
not
can't
kidding
get my
about
brain
that.
around it.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of personality.
Right?
Yeah.
They had a humor chip, and that was the running joke, is how high it was dialed.
Yeah.
I've often wanted a humor chip. So the one that I would say is probably Hal from 2001. There are very few scenes as creepy as when he won't open those doors.
Yeah,
and
man.
and I think that speaks to kind of the fear of our
Yeah.
that it will outthink us to the point where it won't do what we want it to do. And am I wrong? That's like a real possibility, right?
No, it is, for real. It's that element that they're so logical that they lock themselves, out with the choice, ability to choose.
Yeah.
Which is scary.
I thought that going back to CHAPPiE for a second, I thought that Hugh Jackman's like issues and problems were very legitimate and real, and I actually associated more with those than Patel's character, right? Who I was like, that seems like a bad idea. You shouldn't do it just because you can, But they switched it, and maybe that was one of the things. Like they switched it and made Jackman the villain, and it turns out like it was about the person and not the vision, or the person and not the stance. Meaning
Right.
You've got a lot of terrible people that stand for good things, and vice versa. But anyway, just going back, like I was on, like at the beginning of the movie, I was like, what? Like, how is he not the good guy here?
Right. I agree with you. That could have actually happened.
In a different movie, he would
In
be.
a different movie. I would actually kind of want to see that particular version, actually.
I'll say this too, going back to CHAPPiE one more time. I think I'd be more interested to see the movie where they ended that story. Like, I would like to see that movie, where this new journey or whatever that they're about to go on.
Right?
I would be more interested in seeing that one than the other one.
Yeah.
Well, it would certainly be a world, because of what happens at the end, which we haven't given away, and there's no need to now, but it certainly would be a world with a lot of different possibilities. Once that equation, so to speak, has been solved, my goodness, the things you could do.
Fascinating movie.
I do want to spoil just a second, because I have this particular thought that just keeps coming to me. I'm trying to figure out if I can share it without spoiling.
Listen, if we're not done talking about CHAPPiE, we're not done talking about CHAPPiE. That's fine. All right. So, Deneé, you go ahead.
Okay.
If you don't want the very last bit of this movie spoiled, now's the time to turn down your sound.
All right.
Whatever. We'll be back in.
We'll give you some kind of an indicator. Okay. So we're going into a spoiler. Okay. So I want to see the movie pick up right when her robot eyes open, because nobody told her what's going on. So she was just gonna flip out, like everything's fine, I'm on to the next thing in life, and then all of a sudden, and then what is going on? Like you would
How terrifying would that be?
It would be terrifying.
But here's the thing. Wait, but here's the thing. Hold on. Here's the thing. It was a save from before a lot of stuff happened. So she would be conscious from the moment of that save, right? So she missed she has like two futures now. One that she lived as a human being, and now one that's going to happen from that point on as a robot. Am I wrong about that?
But no, I think you're right. But it also would be terrifying, because that means that she put the headset on and woke up as a robot.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like that would be. It's like, you're coming back now, Mummy. And I'm like, what are you doing? Leave her alone. She's moved on.
Her soul might be in heaven, and you just brought it back.
Great.
Maybe. I don't know.
That was a different movie. That was a different movie that just came out that I just saw. The horror movie with, what was that? What was it called?
I don't envy that you had to watch. The one with Duplass?
Yeah, that was the whole plot, that they ripped people, back from the dead.
Yeah.
The Lazarus Project.
By the way, that was an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer like 10 years ago. So
Nice.
So they ripped it off of Buffy.
Yep. A lot of people ripped off Buffy.
All right, back from spoiler. Is this what we do? Okay.
Well, everything's fine now. Thank you for skipping ahead.
since you guys are bringing up more CHAPPiE stuff, I also have to say I love a culture where everybody can just make their own really cool T-shirts at the drop of a hat.
Was that her face on one?
Yes.
At the end?
There was the one, but she didn't. She made one of CHAPPiE too.
Yeah, she was when she got shot. She was wearing a CHAPPIE shirt,
Who are all these
like from
screen
the
pressers?
movie.
They have a screen. They have a screen,
They have a screen press.
and like maybe it's in some deleted footage.
They had ample
See her
amounts of
making
ink.
T-shirts. Made from free.
I noticed that. I did a double take. I was like, that happened like 2 minutes ago. What happened?
At the very least, even if she just grabbed some paint and a clean T-shirt, where did she get that clean T-shirt? They
I don't
wear
understand
nasty clothes the whole time. You're looking around. They're squatters. Like, are there washing machines where they're squatting?
Yeah. It seems like a pretty developed, abandoned warehouse world, doesn't it?
And that
It really
T-shirt
does.
was white. It was
It really made the blood pop. It really made the visual of the blood really pop.
Oh.
Okay, so this kind of goes in both places. Since we're talking about our favorite AI movies, one that hasn't been mentioned that's also very recent that I loved was Big Hero 6. And Baymax is kind of another artificial intelligence. I found it interesting in CHAPPiE that they did the whole fist bump gag, like exactly from Big Hero 6, with the whole mistake and everything.
Yeah.
That was really interesting. I wonder
It's
if
a
they...
rip-off movie.
Well, but I wonder, I'm sure they didn't rip that off. I'm sure they developed it separately, but I wonder if after Big Hero 6 came out, they were like, oh, man.
I wonder if after they developed it, they just said, oh, man, every time they watched it.
Just for watching.
Just from watching their own movie.
Just watching it like,
No, there are some cool visuals, though. I mean, it's a bright, there's colors,
Yeah.
It's just not
Well, and I
great.
forgot that I was, wasn't watching a real robot. I think that's the truest thing. Like, I was never aware that I was watching effects. I felt like I was watching a real robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only a couple times that I was watching CHAPPiE and I was like, and that was not somebody sitting in a suit. That was CG or whatever. And they're like, wait, is this all CG? Wait.
It's a combination, right? It's all man in suit and then CG on top, right? Isn't that how they do this stuff now?
Motion capture, yeah, I believe.
Yeah. There's some
Yeah.
really good scenes in it. There are some things if you could just take out those parts. But
Yeah. Any other artificial intelligence movies that you guys wanted to highlight or say that you really enjoyed, or even just robots in cinema and that have kind of stood the test of time?
I mean, obviously, I love the Terminator franchise. That's an easy one. The RoboCop is the obvious connection to what we were CHAPPiE. Comparisons all over the place. I'm one of the Terminator. I'll go watch everything that they make.
Yeah. You excited about Genesis?
Yes, but I'm also prepared. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it hasn't been a stellar franchise as of late, but it doesn't keep me from watching them.
And there's
So hesitantly, excited is the wrong word. I am prepared.
That's a good word. That's a good word. I'm telling you, Terminator 2 is like a perfect film. It's incredible how tight and aggressive and quick that movie is, and that's just.
Yeah.
I rewatched it recently, and I guess there's stuff that holds up, but it seems to hold up really well.
Yeah.
I'm reading
Especially
over the
considering-
questions here. Sorry.
Especially considering the time, when it was made and the effects that they were dealing with.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Okay, let's see if we can find a question here from William. All right, here, let's answer this philosophical one. If someone's mind was to be transferred to a robot body, would it really be them? Discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, this is another spoiler, though, so we're going to give the little...
It didn't have to be a spoiler until you mentioned it.
Until you did that.
Well, it does in a way, because what I'm going to answer...
Oh, okay.
So this goes back to the question that you were saying, Aaron, about her mind being transferred or her consciousness being transferred, but before she was dead. So are there two consciousness, or is the first one not the true consciousness, or is the second one like? I don't
think that there's two separate ones. I think that somebody is just conscious, and so I think that she would be aware of what had happened before, and then now being able to move inside of a new figure.
Yeah.
At least that's the hope, right? Because otherwise it'd
But
be
how
really
would
scary.
that? How would that? If it was downloaded onto a USB, how would that USB have the extra information that had been gathered and processed since the formation of the data on that USB?
I don't understand that.
Hold on, I'm not a
Not
robot scientist, but I do know.
It's a good question. It's a good question. What makes our souls stick to this body is another, it's kind of like that, right? Like,
Yes, some sort of spiritual glue.
did God have a USB drive? And that is, like, did he,
He did. I saw it. It was in Lucy.
Oh, yeah.
right.
So, yeah, that's a really good question. I also wonder, like, I think that you do have to retain a lot of your own personality because he didn't come out with a robot voice, he had his own voice. So, anyway, it's just very
It's
stuff.
interesting, huh? I think
They took a lot of liberty.
I've heard this postulated as well philosophically. What if you aren't the same person that you've always been? That every night when you dream, somebody replaces you with somebody who just has your own memories. So you're actually a different. So like when we wake up, that could actually be a different version of us. We just have that consciousness implanted in us.
I like to sort of believe that that's sort of what it means to be willing to change and adapt in our lives. So I don't know if I like the idea of somebody doing that to me while I'm sleeping, but I do like to think that I am an evolving, person, being.
I had a slight technical snafu. I had to talk to my son for a second. What was the last question asked?
So philosophically, I've heard people postulate that we could have transitions in our life where we're actually a different person and we don't know it because we've been implanted with all of the memories and experiences, of the person before us. That at night they could actually, trade out our body and have out, the new memories.
Very, very Total Recall-y.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Isn't that the same thing? If you can transfer human consciousness to a robot, why couldn't you transfer it to another human? Is it just kind of a one-way port?
Yeah. Well, this is. I don't know if this directly responds to that, but I felt like there was maybe I missed it, but it seemed like a very specific terminology of consciousness instead of soul in the movie. Like I don't think they ever said soul.
I think maybe the mama character said it's your soul. It's like what's on the inside. I think she mentioned soul.
I might have missed it when I was rolling my eyes. Was it in the bed scene whenever he had the blankets cozied up for story time?
Yep, it was for story time.
Then I probably missed that.
She was trying to tell him it's what's inside.
I was laughing too hard.
Yeah.
So sorry, I don't think that directly responds to what you were saying, Aaron.
No, I just find it all fascinating. I find the idea of transferable consciousness a very fascinating idea in one that could go a lot of different directions.
Well, it's like what Buddhists believe that you can come back. It's kind of like that, right?
Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily really them, to answer the actual question that was asked. It's a different version of them, and I think that different version thinks that it's actually them, but that the real version is, gone.
Gone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Deep stuff.
So, but if you're talking about that, then you're going to get into like alternate timelines and alternate, future selves, and at whatever point you split or whatever, like you're still you, but you're a different you, so you're not you. Unless you're the other one, then you are you.
Thank you, Josh. Very well said.
I think it becomes, when do you become aware that you are you and there's another version of you? And that's what I want to know about.
Mm-hmm.
Or you just blissfully exist, not knowing that there are multiple versions of yourself.
This actually touches on, not directly, but a little bit on like cloning, right? So, and specifically in movies too, but even in real life, like this is we're not on the cusp anymore. Like we've stepped over into the cloning, and it's, there's even sources that say that humans have already been cloned, right? Who knows? I don't know. But I know it's a hot topic. So, but in that situation, like we're talking about consciousness being the soul, right? And these are, I'm not trying to like throw a new thing out. Like these are things that people have been talking about in movies and books for,
Yeah.
ages and ages. But like, who has the soul? Does the clone have a soul too? Does the soul does it clone? Is God, if you believe in God or a higher power, is God big enough to to create another soul, or is that just a piece of meat?
I just got a picture of God in the heavens, like, and we're down here cloning. It's like, oh, they made another one. All right, I'll get that one a soul too. Like, he's running out of stock.
Soul
like,
stock.
I didn't prepare for this.
I'm all out of souls.
We're just these meat tubes. Clones are meat tubes until there's like a group that's like advocating for clone rights. They have souls too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, Josh. I really don't know how to answer that question.
I don't know. I mean, they've been debating that for ages, so I don't know that any of us know the answer. Obviously, none of us know the answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just really need them to find that mosquito in the amber so we can make Jurassic Park a real thing. I want it to happen.
What about, put your hands together,
All right.
robot dinosaurs
What?
that are sentient?
What? Guys, this is big.
You're
Jurassic
welcome.
Park. Jurassic Park 10, maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe get there by then.
But is that
All
a
right,
step
so-
back?
What's that?
That's a step back from cloning, though.
Right. Well, they've discovered the real ones. They'll eat people. So hopefully the robots will listen. Oh, but they don't learn.
They
Even
don't.
robots are going to destroy them.
That's right.
They kill for sport.
Right, they do. All right, so we've got a few minutes here left, and I did want to touch on this just a little bit. There's kind of been this movement recently in culture. You saw a little bit of it at the Oscars and a little bit here and there, where some kind of fairly, big-name directors that do different kinds of movies are starting to look at kind of the superhero genre, which is taking over theaters, as a lower-class type of cinema. Like appealing to what they would say, middle America or that kind of thing. I just wondered, you guys' thoughts on that, because, for me, I look at it and I go, if it's a great movie, it's a great movie. I don't know, why there has to be a backlash. But what do you guys think?
Yeah. I'll go first this time. Oh, me.
Josh?
Josh.
I think there's a couple of things that could happen. I think number one, as this superhero market or genre gets saturated, they're going to start dissipating, and the fan base might dissipate or whatever. And I think at that point in time, those higher quality, higher level, the ones that have more to offer are going to rise up, and the pulp is going to filter away. That's number one. And that's not an answer directly to your question yet. But when I look at like genres of the past, right, the Western genre or the army movie or the whatever, they didn't necessarily like. You look at Dances with Wolves, which is this brilliant multi-Academy Award-winning Western, right? But then you could also, look at. I'm trying to think of this old like B westerns, which is kind of where like it all started or whatever. So within the genres, as it grows and grows and grows, it has to find ways to grow and fill the mold of the genre, so that it's not like the Western genre anymore. It is the Western genre, and I think that's what superhero movies they're gonna continue to do. There's going to be the superhero genre, and maybe I'm wrong, but this I'm guessing. And within that, you're going to have those pieces that rise to the top, and you're going to keep the pulp, or not you're going to keep the stuff that's geared to a lower common denominator, for lack of a better phrase. But I think that's even not just with like the Western genre or specific genres of movie. That's also the case with comic books, period, which is where most of these superheroes have grown from. The comic books themselves are not the same as they used to be. They've grown, and an evolution of them to, and the graphic novel, but like these fully realized, beautiful stories. But you also still have like, hey, look, it's, the lowest common denominator superhero comic book as well.
Do you feel like they'll ever get to a place where a superhero movie could be like Dances with Wolves, could come away with multiple Academy Awards? You know, do you think that's
I
something that's in
think
the future?
yes, and I think if you go back and you look at movies like Unbreakable, like that's a perfect example of what that could look like. Unbreakable is a great, great, great superhero movie, but it wasn't like, you know, a lot of it was just a very realistic, gritty, you know, real story. So I absolutely think they could. I don't know if they'll look exactly like that, but I think that's a perfect example of what that could look like as it evolves.
Deneé, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, while you were talking, Josh, I wonder if part of the problem is that superheroes tend to be a little bit unrelatable to the average person. And it sort of highlights that, well, we can't do that. So there's like a separation between these people that we look up to, these characters that we look up to, like, look at these greater people than ourselves. And I'm wondering if that's one of the reasons that people, whether in the industry who are judging it, saying that it's lesser than, or people who watch it might get a little tired of it. And maybe that's why they're saying that, is because there's an element of them that is relatable because they show their humanity. And then there's this element where it's like, wow, I'm never going to be like that. I'm never going to go out and do that thing. So we kind of find ourselves in a culture reminding ourselves, no, you can make a difference. In fact, I posted something just today on a Facebook page for the Aaron and Deneé Facebook page, and it had these two superheroes that were kind of like up in the sky, and they were fighting, and this little kid's like, I wish I could be like that. And the dad says, you know, well, let me show you how you can do this. And he goes over to someone that's wearing this hat. He's like, I really like that hat. That hat looks really great on you. And then the dad says, you see how his face changed? He's smiling now. You can impact your world that way. And that's the message. I feel like if they can continue to find a way to have that humanity, which is I think what you're talking about, Josh, with that movie, is it Unbroken?
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable. I don't want you.
I feel like they can continue to.
Just stop it. Just sorry. I don't.
Deneé, did your
It's sentient. Your phone is sentient.
Guys, I turned on this part of my phone, again, this gigantic Note 4, where if I say, hello, Galaxy, it turns on and talks back to me. It's freaking me out now. It's like wanting to have a conversation about this movie stuff.
Does it call you mommy?
Hmm?
Does it call you mommy?
Mommy?
Yeah, I should look up, Mummy.
I'm turning on now, Mommy.
Yeah, Mummy, huh?
Mommy.
Anyhow, I wonder if that's part of it, is just that unrelatable part.
Yeah.
So those are my thoughts.
Sure.
Yeah, I think, man, it's been interesting to see. It's kind of like a cycle with a lot of things, right? Like we want the heroes to come save us, and then we want a world with no heroes where we're the heroes, and then we want the heroes to come save us, and so I think there's always going to be a place for it. I think what I fight against is this idea that you can take a genre and just make it some sort of like a movie class system. Like it's some sort of caste system where certain kinds of movies can't be as good as others. In a way, we do this with the way we award films by sectioning off certain types of films. Like animated films is a great example. I think animated films are some of the best movies being made, yet you will never hear them in conversation for Best Picture because they have their own category. And I think it could be done with superhero movies where they're just seen as this other kind of movie instead of letting movies exist in a greater bubble. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, it makes total sense. It's superhero. I don't know if it's going to get. I would say that that I don't think it'll get to that point. Obviously, where it's going to have its own Academy Award section. Right? Maybe it will. That seems. I see what you're saying. That seems a little far-fetched, but I go back to like the Western genre. That's a perfect example. It was everywhere. The market was saturated. It peeled off. People found a new way to reinvent it. It peeled off. People reinvented it. And so it's a point now. Like we're not in a Western phase, and we may not ever be again, but we've hit everything on the Western so far that anything that comes out, I think, like a Western that comes out now, would be judged in a general
like
broad platform. Yeah, and I think, I think we're all, like, on some level, I could be wrong, but I think we're all a little tired of the superhero movies. I love them, but we're a little tired because we're seeing the same thing over and over again.
But I think that's
You
part
know?
of this sort of Hollywood culture where if you find something that works, you just blast the crud out of it.
Absolutely, and it's hitting a tipping point, and they're already planning movies for 2 years in advance. And I think at that point in time, people are going to be somewhat over it. I could be wrong, but I think people are going to be like, yeah, I don't need to see, the one-offs. I think they're still in line for Avengers 3. They're probably going to be in line for Justice League. Those big ones, but like Ant-Man may, like, I think that's going to be a teller. Like, we'll see.
Yeah.
But none of those are they still, like, none of those are looking at it from a different angle, because that's just, it's just Marvel and DC just throwing out, hey, we got one of these, we got one of those, we got one of these, we got one of those. When that's done, then we're gonna see people, like, thinking about it again and creating new and interesting stories. And it's not going to be a saturated market anymore. And it may not be like, it may be one, like one Western. One Kevin Costner's like, hey, I want to make a Western, and maybe Joss going, hey, I'm going to make one superhero movie, and it's going to be a real thinky, feely piece. I don't know.
Something unique, something new.
Something unique, yeah.
Like Hancock. That's a unique superhero movie.
Unique. That was.
I loved Hancock. I know a lot of people gave it a hard time, but I loved it.
I liked it. Yeah, I liked it too.
No, we're 3 for 3. I thought I really liked it. So.
Okay. Yeah, that was also, that predated this whole.
Yeah, the Marvel DC explosion, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So did the TV series Heroes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was another example that started off with this really interesting, intriguing, eclipse, and you're like, what is this?
Let's actually go back for a second. Like, you look at Batman, like Batman Begins. It's like that was all new territory.
Yeah.
When that happened, and I feel like even since that franchise, the stuff that's been coming out, while I love it, hasn't come at it from that human position since.
Yeah, I think like right now we're in this phase where we're learning more about Marvel DC. We're learning about the history of these characters. People who've never been interested in comics before, never known that they were a possibility. That's what we're kind of into right now, and it does feel like it's a lot. But at the same time, I enjoy those more than I might enjoy other films. I would rather go to a superhero movie than I would go to most others right now, because I feel like, oh, this is going to be, kind of an interesting revisit into this world, and it's a good time. But I am noticing, like, oh, that's on the mark. I expected that. So let's go back to unique way of telling a story. So if they can keep finding really unique ways to tell these stories, I'm in.
And I don't even think we've mentioned the best superhero movie of all time, in my opinion, which is The Incredibles.
Incredibles, yeah. I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah.
Incredibles is great, but that's the thing. People don't think of it that way as a superhero movie because it's animated.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it's right over your shoulder, Aaron.
What?
But you're right. It's it's an amazing superhero movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was incredible.
And I think
incredible.
Yeah, that's good. Very good. Yeah. Pat yourself on the back for that one. So I think a lot of it too has to do with something that's been in existence way before comic book movies and superhero movies, probably since the mid '70s when Spielberg started doing some of these bigger event movies, is this bias against popcorn cinema, just this bias against, something that is, popular and fun and exciting, from Jaws to then Star Wars to then, the summer blockbuster, culture that we have now. I think there's just a little bit of bias against that being anything more than just, oh, eat some popcorn and enjoy it, which I think is unfortunate because some of those movies are high quality movies in all regards.
Sure. But they do get lumped into that all those movies where the studios are just throwing out.
Money.
Hey, Transformers 9. Let's throw that one out, or like.
No, please don't do that.
Right. But it's it's funny that even Spielberg himself, like, he he had this to get Academy Award recognition. He had to stop doing any of that. Like I think Schindler's List is a great movie. It's a more personal movie. It's deals on heavier subjects and stuff, but like actual filmmaking and craft wise, like the craft of a director, like he was like all of his movies are like he's a craftsman from first movie on, or maybe second movie on. We'll be a little bit there, but you know what I'm saying? Like, and even Jaws, like. It's a shame that if that's classified as the summer blockbuster or whatever, because that's just a straight up great movie. Like, it's a perfect piece of filmmaking.
We could take this and we could just say we live in a culture that likes to label things and put things into categories, and I don't think it works for us all the time. I think there is something to be said for just which movie did you go see was the most compelling and the most, like, what if our labels were most heartfelt or best plot? What if that was what we were looking at instead of the overall? Because then we would probably be looking at films that would be blockbusters because it was an incredible way to tell a story.
Yeah.
And these little films that, takes a lot of work to make would have a lot more backing to put them into more audiences. But we just don't live in that culture yet.
Well, I want it to be known that I'm trying to affect change from the inside. When I vote for my Critics' Choice Awards, like this year I had Guardians of the Galaxy and Lego Movie in my nominations, and I'm not afraid to do it. I think they're phenomenal movies that deserve to be up there with Boyhood and Birdman and all the ones that, everybody else is going to talk about. And so, but again, maybe that's my personal bias. I don't know.
Well, I think that you're a better man than me because I just stopped watching the Academy Awards like several years ago. I realized that I love movies too much to watch the Academy Awards anymore, and it was just too heartbreaking all around. Not even just the awards, but like leading into it, it was a heartbreak. All the great movies that don't even get recognized, or the boring-looking movies that
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this weird thing. Well, we have used our hour plus a few minutes. Guys, as always, man, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching live and, asking questions and commenting. And if you're following up, if you're watching this after it was live, feel free to leave comments at the YouTube video. We'll check that and respond to those as well. And we love kind of the interactivity of this thing. Let us know your favorite artificial intelligence movies maybe that we missed, or favorite robots in cinema that maybe we missed, and let us know what you think about kind of superhero movies being seen as second class, how you feel about that. We'll be back in a couple weeks. We do it 3 p.m. Central every other Saturday with Critic, Geek, and the Girl. Standing in again as the Geek, Josh Childs. Thanks for joining us today. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. I had a great time. It's great to see you two again.
Yeah. Give some plugs, man. Tell us about the Nether region.
Nether regions, we're kind of revamping right now. If you go on the channel, you can see a lot of our old stuff. But we are starting a new every Wednesday. We'll have a new video up, and for on a monthly cycle. So we just released a Future Lou, who is a gentleman from the future who could give a rat's about the future. So he answers all your questions about the future. So that'd be the first Wednesday of every month. The last Wednesday of every month is our more traditional epic sketch comedy in the sci-fi fantasy arena, and the two in between weeks, or 3 sometimes, Wednesdays, I'm not telling you yet. You have to stay tuned because like I said, we're relaunching, so it's some surprises coming up this month. So go check us out, the Nether region on YouTube. Also, you can follow us on Twitter. My Twitter handle is down there.
Nice.
Nice. And yeah, we're in Nashville, and thanks for letting us do a shout out, buddy.
Yeah, no problem.
And lady, buddies.
Yeah.
You can be a buddy. Buddy's not gender specific, is it?
Buddy.
I don't think so. But then I'm from Michigan, so I don't think guy is gender specific either. So.
Yeah.
Hey, guy.
And we got the girl. That's Deneé Hughes. You got any shout outs or plugs you want to make?
No. Well, Aaron and I are doing a Patreon launch. We're trying to launch a daily talk show, an hour long. So I would just say if you like what we do a radio show. We also do podcasting and other fun stuff. But check out patreon.com/Aaron and Deneé, or you can go to aaronanddeneé.com and click on Patreon and learn more about our talk show, what we're trying to do there. So that's what I would say.
I'm doing it now. Interesting.
Ooh.
I have to plug you guys.
That's right.
There you go. And as always, you can check out Your Movie Friend at yourmoviefriend.com, as well as here on the YouTube channel. We thank you for joining. It's Critic, the Geek, and the Girl, and we'll be back in a couple weeks. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.